In the third stanza, the poet actually does not idolize these national heroes. Instead, he says that they had actually exhibited some sort of a fanaticism and extremist thinking which is not actually desirable. To Yeats, these martyrs were patriotic people, but they had an ideal world in their minds, and that ideal concept actually demanded their own lives, which is a foolish thing to have done in the mindset of Yeats. One thing that he finds common in all these ordinary people is that they had hearts with one purpose alone, that was fixed and never changing. You can see the mention of two opposite seasons here, summer and winter. In spite of the changing weathers, whether it was in the summer or in the winter, their hearts and the purpose in their hearts is mentioned to be tied to a stone. Okay, the stone stands here as a metaphor to show the firmness and fixedness, the integrity of their decision. And the firmness of that decision was enough to trouble the living stream, the flow of life, the flow of the life at those particular times. And to highlight the firmness and steadfastness of their decision, the poet brings forward certain images of change. Okay, the horse that comes from the road always changes its motion. The horse rider sways from left to right and he changes his motion. The birds that fly from clouds to clouds, they also change their motion every minute. Minute by minute, all these things change their way of movement, their path. Even he says that a shadow on the cloud that is reflected on a stream or a river, even that changes every minute. The horse hoof that slides on the brim or bank of the river, the splash made by the walking horse, and the diving moorhens and the moorcocks, they all enjoy the changes that happen to their life. They all change minute by minute. They live minute by minute. But the firmness of these people's decision was final and it never changed, unlike all these natural phenomena mentioned by the poet. As a final statement, the stanza ends with a line that the stone is in the midst of all. In the midst of all these changing ways of life, the stone lay quietly fixed and firm. What is the stone? The stone, the metaphor that stands to denote the purpose, the fixedness and integrity of the decision that these people had made to even to sacrifice their own lives for a nobler cause. So, in short, this stanza depicts the unity of these people as a stone in the moving and living stream of life. The stone does not change or transform, so the heart's dominated by a single purpose, the firmness of decision to work for a nationalistic cause. That is enchanted or tied to a stone. So, as I said in the beginning, you can see that the poet does not actually idolize these people. He does not say that they have transformed themselves as really genuinely nationalistic people, But actually, they must have shown that patriotic fervor as an attack of passion. So the poet continues his cynical attitude here, even though he says that their decision was firm to sacrifice their lives, but that must have been under some spurt of passion or emotion. This is what the poet actually means. Although their outward appearance seemed to have changed, their hearts must not have transformed, even though they had decided one fine morning to rise against the British army, to fight for an Irish Republic. It must have been out of a spurt of passion or emotion. In the fourth stanza, he continues this feeling, but there is a change of tone. He wonders whether the sacrifice of these people was absolutely necessary, because right now, at the time of penning the poem, nothing has changed. So he asks a question: oh, when may it suffice? Or when will their sacrifice find fruition? Because he remembers that too much thoughts about sacrificing had made the hearts of these people callous like a rock, rough like a rock. But again, wondering about the fruitfulness of these people's efforts, he says that is heaven's part to determine. It is up to the gods to determine whether what they have done is right or wrong, or whether they need to be rewarded with freedom or not. That is up to the heavens. Now, what is the role to be played by the people remaining on earth? Our part is to murmur name upon name. Just like a mother names her child when at last sleep has come on the eyelids of the child, just like that, what is our role? Our role is to name them. So that is what the poet is doing in this poem as well. He is naming each of them, like Major John McBride or Patrick Pierce or Countess Markiewicz. He names them one by one, just like a mother names her child. When sleep has at last come to those legs, that those small legs that had run wild playing all day long. So the metaphor here of the child is to refer to these nationalistic heroes who had spent their long hours and days and weeks fighting for their nation. Rather, the fanatic act of sacrifice that these people have made. Then the poet asks a question: what is it but nightfall? So, nightfall here refers to death itself. So, he wonders again whether it is death itself or just a sleep. So, the sleep here referred to by the metaphor of the child sleeping. So, the sleep here also refers to death. So, the just like a child uh, spends the whole day playing, gets tired and winds down to sleep, just like that, these people fought a lot, got tired, and now retired to sleep, the endless sleep of death. But he wonders whether it is just a nightfall or the final eternal death itself. And then again, the thought of whether their deaths were necessary or not returns to his mind. And then he wonders, was it needless death after all? So here he hopes that England would keep the promise that he had given to the Irish people regarding the Home Rule Pact. So, if England keeps her promise, then these people have not died in vain. Then these people have not died uh, wastefully. The deaths of these people, the martyrdom of these ordinary people, would be beneficial to the Irish people only if England would keep her promise. Again, in this stanza, he wonders what must have inspired these people to dream about dying, because they dreamed and as a result they died. What did they dream of? They dreamt of fighting for an Irish Republic, and as a result, they had to die, they had to give their lives. Probably excess of love had confused them. He says that what if excess of love bewildered them till they died? Probably a blinding love for one's own nation must have confused their senses and emotions, and that must have led to their deaths. Now, as the poem ends, he says, whatever that might be, this is all I can do. What is it? To write out all these things in a verse. Just like you have a hall of fame or a roll of honor, uh, listing out the names of national heroes, winners, just like that, Yeats is writing this verse as a roll of honor to honor and glorify MacDonough and MacBride and Connolly and Pierce, all those ordinary people who will definitely be remembered now and forever throughout the lives of all Irish people. Wherever green is worn, wherever green is worn represents wherever Irish men live, they will certainly remember these people, MacDonough and MacBride and Connolly and Pierce, gratefully, with great gratitude. They will be remembered with respect and love, because they were the people who changed everything by invoking the birth of a terrible beauty. The terrible beauty, the transformation that happened to the ordinary people like McBride and Connolly led to the transformation of the whole nation and its freedom as Irish Republic. So, again, with the repetition, a terrible beauty is born. We see that these people are no longer to be considered as ordinary people. Instead, they are to be revered with great respect and honor, because it was the laying down of their lives, it was the sacrifice that they had made that changed everything utterly. So, in conclusion, we can say that the poem contrasts the casual comedy with its polite, meaningless words of the pre revolutionary Ireland with the terrible beauty born during the Irish rebelliousness. So, the refrain, a terrible beauty is born, it is repeated at the end of the first, second, and the last stanzas to show this sort of transformation from insignificance to significance.